In this video, we are going to discuss the principle of design called emphasis. Emphasis is a way of developing the main theme in a work of art. So it's the way of taking the big idea, the point that you want to get across to the viewer, and highlighting it so that they know what is important to look at. We do this by creating a focal point. This is also called a center of interest or a point of emphasis. So on your paper where it says highlights a blank of blank, aka a blank of blank, you need to know center of interest and point of emphasis are all synonyms with each other, meaning they all mean the same thing as a focal point. We are going to discuss 5 different ways of creating a focal point, and the work of art on the screen here actually uses all of those. The first is contrast. We use contrast, meaning 2 different opposite things, to highlight the important one. So in this picture, this little hoppy white circle right here is the point of emphasis, the focal point, because all of the rest of the circles are different from it, are opposite colors. So it's light and they're all dark. It can work the same way if you made all of the circles light and only had one black spot on it. That would create contrast and highlight the focal point. You can also use isolation, meaning being alone, being by itself. If you take away all the other stuff, then your eye has no choice but to look at the important object. Placement can also create a focal point. If you want to highlight something, you're going to put it right in the middle of your piece of artwork. We can also use converging lines. Now, you don't have to draw this entire picture in your notes packet, but I do want you to draw the lines that will, in a second, be on your screen. This is a piece of art, it's a fresco, meaning it's painted on the side of the wall in plaster, called The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci. It was painted on the wall of a cafeteria at a monastery. So the monks, being religious, wanted to have a religious scene, so they took a story from the Bible and had Leonardo paint it on the wall. Leonardo uses all of these techniques in order to create a sense of emphasis in this painting. So the first one we're talking about is converging lines. There are lines, either implied or real, that point you to the main subject of this work of art. So they use one-point perspective to kind of focus your eye in on the figure in the middle, which is supposed to represent Jesus Christ, obviously being the main important part of the biblical story. If we also think back, contrast. There is an emptiness in the window behind him that is light that contrasts with his dark hair in the center, so it highlights his face. There is isolation. While all the rest of the figures are crowded close together, there is an emptiness around him that allows you to see him stand out. Placement. He is directly in the middle of this composition. There's all the lines. If you were to make an X from side to side, you would literally find the middle point directly over his face. I showed you the converging lines already. These are what I would like you to draw in the box. You just have to draw the yellow rays. You don't have to draw the entire scene behind unless you would really like to. The final technique for creating a sense of emphasis or a focal point is to use detail, or an unusual detail, to be more specific. So all of the rest of these circles are just a plain circle, whereas the one circle is both contrasted, being that it's white and everything else is dark, but it also has spikes or rays coming out from the edges, which brings your eye directly to that spot. So if you change it up, if everything else is all the same and united, and you add a spot of unusual interest, you will create a focal point as well.